Hello guys, welcome back to the MMA Sucker channel. My name is Frazer Krohn, and last night we got taught a lesson. Do not talk the talk if you cannot walk the walk. Colby Covington got absolutely dominated by Leon Rocky Edwards in the main event of UFC 296, and deservedly so. His pre-fight, we'll call them antics, but his pre-fight character, his pre-fight words about Leon Edwards' deceased father were disgusting. Dana White's come out, says he really disagrees, not in as many words, but really disagrees with the way that Covington sort of went after Edwards' father, who was, as we know, was murdered many years ago. And he sort of talked the talk, as it were. Like we say, he spoke a big game and he didn't back that up. He bottled it. For me, he was scared of Leon Rocky Edwards in there. That first Definitely the first two rounds, certainly in the third. And I think Leon Edwards broke his will. I really do. Colby Covington is known as a relentless pressure fighter, a guy that was come forward, wrestle, overwhelm his opponents at times. And he did that against even Kamaru Usman, despite the fact being on the wrong end of two losses. But Colby Covington didn't do that. He seemed cautious in that first round. He landed 10 strikes. Second round, he landed 13 strikes. Third round, he landed 13 strikes. Fourth round, it was a slightly better round where he landed 19 strikes. I still think he lost it. And then he did win the final round. He landed 54 strikes. But we'll go on to talk about that final round in a second. But like I say, he talked the talk and he did not walk the walk. I was really worried on Friday evening when I watched the official weigh-ins that Leon would come in there too emotional, too charged, that Colby'd got in his head, and he'd go out there and he'd throw the fight away. Complete opposite of what we got on the night. I've also, while we're on the matter, pound for pound, headshot, dead mug, only appropriate mug from the Fight Disciples for today's episode. But going back to the fight itself, like I say, I was worried, but he was calm, clinical, brutal, Leon Edwards. And he fought the fight at his pace. That first round, phenomenal, phenomenal. Started investing in the leg kick early, and that paid dividends later on in the fight. And for the first, second, and third round at least, I really think that Leon Edwards, he surprised Covington with just how quick and accurate he was, because he was catching Covington. He cut Covington in the first round. A caveat, guys, I've only watched the fight once. I'm going to watch it back again, probably this evening, and I might have a little bit more to say on the matter after the fact. But like I said, I've only watched it once, so I'm getting a few of the rounds mixed up. I do apologise, but like I say, I think the shot that was really causing Covington problems with the front kick to the body, and it wasn't a normal sort of ball of the foot to the, coming straight up, ball of the foot to the body. I also think something that caused Covington problems. We know Covington's one-dimensional. We know he's a good wrestler with bang average striking. I think what really caused him problems was the screwing. Well, the fact that Leon came out orthodox for a start. We know he's a southpaw and he came out orthodox, and I think that confused Covington. I don't think he expected Leon to come out orthodox, but we know that Leon can fight from either stance. He's just more proficient out of the southpaw stance. It was the screwing front kick for me. It wasn't a normal front kick. The normal sort of front kick that we see, plenty of fighters throw. Conor McGregor coming to mind when he fought Chad Mendes. It's the ball of the foot. It's the ball of the foot just underneath the toe, bang, straight into the middle, straight into the sternum. That's not what Leon Edwards was doing. He was throwing a few of those, don't get me wrong, but it was almost like a corkscrew. It was coming from the orthodox stance. It was coming round, 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 in still hitting the same target, but it was just corkscrewing in, and it was causing Colby a lot of problems because he wasn't able to, time the front kick, try and grab hold of it. Like I think he did once, and Leon just defended it easily. Something that I do find really interesting in this fight, Colby Covington, the wrestler, the All-American, blah blah blah, got taken down as many times as Leon Edwards did. Leon Edwards wanted to prove a point, and he broke Colby Covington in there in that third round. Colby took him down. Leon pretty much got back to his feet in the clinch, and then Edwards took him down. There's multiple times where Edwards could have locked in a submission. I actually thought that he had a DAS, a front choke, whether it was a DAS or whether it was a sort of guillotine anaconda. I couldn't really tell, but Colby did, he did do well to get out of that position where he sort of, panic rolled. He sort of rolled underneath and got out of that position. That was good from Colby. The final round, Colby did win. He got one takedown and he managed to control Leon on the floor for 3 minutes. But that's it. That's all Colby Covington did. He won the final round, and it wasn't. Leon had known he was at least 3 or 4 rounds up. Colby said he thought he won rounds 3, 4, and 5. He's absolutely delusional if he thinks that. And for me, that's it. Colby Covington is done at the highest level. He's now got 3 losses in undisputed title fights, 2 to Kamaru Usman and 1 to Leon Edwards. All of them, in my opinion, come in dominant fashion. He was finished in the first fight with Usman. He was dominated in the second fight. Now he's been dominated in his third opportunity at the bout. Colby Covington's done for me. After his pre-fight antics, he's done. I don't like that kind of sort of talk pre-fight. That we talk about ugly when things start to get ugly. Leading up to a fight, we had it with Conor and Khabib. And we've had it here. There's another one that I've got in the back of my mind, but I can't off the top of my head remember which fight it was where it's an ugly build-up. But it's not what mixed martial arts is about. It's not why we tune into the sport day week in, week out, and it's disgusting for want of a better word. But like I said, Colby Covington is done at the highest level for me. He called out Wonder Boy, which kind of, with respect to Wonder Boy, kind of tells you everything you need to know. Colby's calling out a 40-year-old striker. He does not want the smoke from the guys at the highest level. We had some fight announcements from Dana White that I'll touch on right at the end of the show. I just want to give a quick thoughts on those fights. But Colby Covington was ranked number 3. Didn't call out Belal Muhammad, who's ranked number 2. I think Belal gets the next title shot. He weighed in, obviously, on Friday. I think he gets the next title shot, more than deserving of that opportunity. But Colby Covington didn't call out Gilbert Burns. As we know, he's now booked. Didn't call out Shavkat Rakhmonov. Perfect fight for him to have called out, who got a big win on this card. Called out Stephen Thompson, who is traditionally not a wrestler. We've seen him controlled by wrestlers. We saw him submitted on the night by Shavkat. And he called him out. He's a bottle job, and I really, like I say, for me, done at the highest level. Colby Covington, if he retired today, he would go down as one of the most bang average UFC fighters in history. There was a tweet I want to just pull up because I think that it's absolutely tweet from Shaheen Al-Shati that completely, for me, summed up Colby Covington's career. He's put Colby Covington is ultimately someone with 0 signature wins, 0 wins over current welterweights, 0-3 in title fights, whose entire reputation was built off 2 losses, who's on the wrong side of his 30s in a young man's division. And for me, he's lost a lot of fans this weekend, through his sort of pre-fight talk, as it were. Like I say, I think he's done. I think he's done at the highest level, and rightfully so. I think he's a despicable human being, and I think like I say, I just think that he's done at the highest level. I don't think he's good enough to compete with any of these guys. You look, like I say, you look down the rankings. Edwards beat him dominantly. Kamaru Usman beat him twice dominantly. Belal Muhammad, I think, gives him a horrible fight. Gilbert Burns is a tough matchup for him. Shavkat beats him. Stephen Thompson's probably the one, and why he called him out, because it's the quote-unquote easiest fight for Covington. But like I say, I think he's done at the highest level. I'm glad that he lost the fight, to be honest. I don't like those kind of pre-fight antics. And like I say, I'm glad that he lost. I'm a massive Leon Edwards fan anyway, but Colby needed to have been taught a lesson. You can't talk that kind of way, and then you can't talk that kind of way and then not back it up in the fight. For me, it was an embarrassing performance from Colby Covington. He's lost a lot of fans, I think, and the facade around Colby Covington it's done now. It's no one's interested in that anymore. Moving on, the co-main event, for me, it was a bit of a tough watch because I mean, it was an entertaining fight. The scorecards 50-45, 50-45, and 49-46, all in favor of Alejandro Pantoja. The champion retains his belt. So we've heard and still twice last night. It was a little bit of a tough watch because it was just so one-sided, in my opinion. It was Royval probably being the better man on the feet, and then and not being able to hang with Pantoja on the ground, which we kind of knew going into the fight because at the end of the day, this had happened before. Pantoja had already beaten Royval once before. Um, and that was only sort of I think 2 years ago in 2021. It was an entertaining fight if you enjoy all aspects of mixed martial arts, but there was a lot of control time from Pantoja and not an awful lot. He wasn't doing an awful lot. He won this fight on control time, in my opinion. Total of 15 minutes and 51 seconds control time on the ground. First round, 2.5 minutes. Sorry, 2 minutes 50 control time. Second round, 3:44. Third round, 2:13. Fourth round, 4:21. And fifth round, 2:43. I think Brandon Royval is going to come away from this one frustrated that he couldn't do more with the fight itself. If you look at that fourth round, 4 minutes 21 control time, Pantoja landed one strike and he only attempted three strikes. Kind of tells you all you need to know about the fight itself. I'm not going to go too much into detail on that one because I didn't, like I say, I don't think it was that an entertaining a fight. Pantoja cements himself as that flyweight champion now. Who's next? We got the announcement of Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi. But I do think that the UFC like the potential of Mohamed Mokaev to become the youngest ever UFC champion. He's got a fight with Alex Perez booked. Let me just double check when that is. But Mohamed Mokaev on the ground is a tough fight for anyone. If Pantoja is gonna look to take Mokaev down if and when they do fight. So Mokaev is set to face Alex Perez on the 2nd of March. That's only got two fights announced at the moment, that and another fight for Eric Anders and Jamie Pickett. The worry for me is that is that Alex Perez just has a history of pulling out of fights. He hasn't. We've got 9 cancelled fights in his last 10. This is a concern. This is a worry. We saw him this weekend in the corner of Cody Garbrandt. I'll go on to talk about later, but it's a concern. But that for me, that's the fight to make if Mohamed Mokaev can get through Alex Perez. I think it's an entertaining fight. We've got Manel Cap on the outside, looking in, as it were. I think Cap might have a fight booked as well. Yeah, Mateus Nicolau on the first card of 2024, which is really important. I think that is the fact that he competes so early in the year really puts him in good stead for the rest of the year if he can get past Nicolau, which isn't an easy thing to do. Moving on, Shavkat Rakhmonov becomes the first person to submit Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, does so in the second round, 4:56 of the second round, after a dominant second round, to be honest, a really dominant second round. That first round was, again, it's a tough watch for me. Shavkat, he had to be cautious. He had to be careful when he did get Wonderboy into those positions. He had to be cautious. Because we know what Wonderboy's like. He got him into the clinch. He controlled him for about 3 minutes in that clinch. Didn't do an awful lot with the position. The second round came. I think he might have hurt Stephen Thompson. Either because the look on Thompson's face was not one that he was sort of relaxed in there, as it were. And he kind of jumped on Thompson early. We thought that he might have had. I think it was well, he tried 2 submissions. I thought that he might have had the first submission. Wonderboy fights out of it, and he gets the rear naked choke at the end of the second round. 18-0 with 18 finishes, Shavkat. Many people asked, he hasn't fought anyone, blah, 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 blah. Now he's fighting guys. Jeff Neal submitted. Stephen Thompson submitted. The difficult thing for me, if I'm Shavkat, is what's next. You've got Leon Edwards, who's more than likely going to be facing Bilal Muhammad for the title next. If I'm Shavkat, I push and push and push and push and push for that Colby Covington fight. 'Cause I think it's an easy fight for Shavkat. I truly do. But you've got Gilbert Burns, who's now booked. I'll go on to talk about later. You've just beaten Stephen Thompson, and you don't want to fight any further down. So you've got Kamaru Usman, who's still ranked number 1 in the division. Will he stay at middleweight? Will he come back down to welterweight to be to fight these contenders like Shavkat? Who knows? A really solid performance from Shavkat Rakhmonov. And he showed a well-rounded game. He showed that he can sort of take the sting out of a fight. He showed that he can stand with Thompson in that first round for a time. He did get caught to the body quite a lot, which was a little bit of a worry if you're a Shavkat fan. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's got some of the best striking in the UFC ever. So it's a risk. But, ultimately, he got the win. 18-0, he keeps that hype train going, and 2024 is going to be a massive year for Nomad. 2024 is also going to be a massive year for Paddy Pimblett, who picked up the biggest win of his career without a doubt, 30-27 on all scorecards when he battered Tony Ferguson. He battered an already battered Tony Ferguson. That first round, I thought Tony was out of it. He was caught, and then Paddy landed a flying knee, landed some brutal ground and pound. The second round, he was able to control him on the ground, and that third round, he was able to control him on the ground as well. I think I picked Tony coming into this one because I genuinely thought that he might, at the end of the day, he should be. The Tony Ferguson that we know and love. Yeah, I picked Ferguson coming into this one. The Tony Ferguson that we know and love should have been dominating Paddy Pimblett. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And even more disappointingly, he still doesn't look like himself. He still doesn't look like the Tony Ferguson that we've come to know and love. He used to be able to take a shot really well. I think Justin Gaethje broke him in their interim title fight, back in I think 2021 and back in the days of lockdown. I think Justin Gaethje, it's 2020, sorry. I think Justin Gaethje broke him. It's 7 straight losses now in a row. David Goggins in his corner clearly didn't work. The last fight that he's made it's really tough because Paddy Pimblett didn't for me didn't look awfully great in there. I think a crisper striker. Tony's not a very good striker. Let's not forget that. He's got not an awful lot of one punch power. He's more of an accumulation fighter, so that's why he used to do so good over 5 rounds. His weird style means that he can't really, or he doesn't tend to, sorry, sit down on a lot of punches because he's always trying to find the angle to get out either side. And there was openings there. Paddy Pimblett, Joe Rogan said that Paddy Pimblett had been watching tape on himself, his past fights, and that he was focusing on not backing up with his chin in the air, and yet he was still doing it. I think a crisper striker knocks Paddy Pimblett out. Simply put, I really do. I really do. I really think a better striker than Tony Ferguson gives him all sorts of problems. But Paddy looked really good on the ground. He's not a striker. He's a grappling guy. If you look down his record, he's got plenty of submission victories on his record, and he's been able to add the striking to his game in order to get the fight to the floor, get the fight to where he wants it, as it were. The thing for me, if I'm Paddy Pimblett, is where do I go from here? Because we've kind of got it now. We know what Paddy Pimblett is. He's a massive, massive hype train. I think that he is a very good fighter. 7-fight winning run now, dating back to Cage Warriors in 2020. He's got 5 straight UFC victories now, 3 finishes, and the last 2 by decision. He'll probably be, I wouldn't be too surprised to see him with a ranking next to his name come Monday morning. With that being said, who does he fight next? If he has a rank, he needs to fight a ranked opponent next, so we know where he's at. Simply put, just looking down on Tapology now, you've got the likes of Bobby Green, who's just coming off a TKO loss. You got Benoit Saint Denis, which I think he stays so far away from. It's ridiculous. Dan Hooker, I think, would be a really fun fight. You got, and then outside of the rankings, you got Joel Alvarez. I think Matt Frevola is now outside of the rankings. Yeah, Matt Frevola, phenomenal fight. We know that he wants that fight. Nasrat Haqparast, he's coming off 3 straight victories. I think that's a step up in competition as well. There's options out there for Paddy Pimblett if he wants them, as it were. But he has to start fighting better competition, and he has to start doing better against a competition that he does fight. Simply put, opening up the main card, this one didn't last long. 1 minute 57. Officially, Bryce Mitchell threw 3 strikes, landed nothing. Josh Emmett landed 10 strikes, landed 2. He only needed 1. A horrific knockout by Josh Emmett. It's nice to see Josh Emmett get back in that win column because he is such a devastating KO artist. And we know that he's such a devastating KO artist, and we haven't seen that in recent times. So you look down his record, that knockout over Michael Johnson was back in 2019. His most recent knockout before last night was Mirsad Bektik in also in 2019. Now Bektik he's retired, he hasn't fought since 2020. We know that he's got the knockout power, but he hasn't shown that in recent fights. He beat Danny Ige, he beat Calvin Katari, obviously then lost to Yair Rodriguez and Ilia Topuria. But he was back to his horrific, devastating best against Bryce Mitchell. Mitchell, I hope he's all right. He was, convulsing in the octagon after the knockout because it was such a brutal. There's not an awful lot to say on this one. It's it's just not an awful lot to say because it was just so short and sweet, as it were. Next for Josh Emmett, I'm thinking, can we coach Brian Ortega out of, retirement, as it were? He hasn't fought in however long. I'm not sure if it's official that he's going to be fighting Yair Rodriguez, but that's certainly what we've heard. I mean, does Max Holloway fight him again? I mean, he doesn't get an awful lot out of that. If I'm Max Holloway, I don't get an awful lot out of that, and it's a risky fight as we saw last night against Josh Emmett. But like I say, it's nice to see Josh Emmett back in the win column. I'm only going to touch on a couple of fights from the card because they're all really, really good. We got 5 finishes to start the card. We had a little bit of people called it a boring main event. I thought it was fascinating, but Shamil Gaziev or Gaziev dominated in his debut. I think he remains undefeated. 12-0. I think he's going to get found out for his cardio. He puts everything into every single punch. He's caused a nasty cut on Bidet's. I think it's just sort of on the side of his eye, maybe just slightly underneath, but really, really good finish. Becomes the first person to finish Martin Bidet. Andre Fili, really nice counter punch knockout. Cody Garbrandt, back to his KO best. This is the first time he's put back-to-back wins together since capturing the bout in 2016. He looked really good against Brian Keller. Brian Keller was eating his front leg up, and yet Cody, he was back to that explosive best that Cody is, so good at. When he explodes out of there and really, lands the hooks and that was a really, really nice finish from Cody. I'll talk about the fight of the night last. I think really good fight was also Casey O'Neill versus Ariane Lipski. Casey O'Neill's 2nd straight loss now, 1st ever loss last time out against Jennifer Meyer by decision. This one, submission armbar by Ariane Lipski, who ahead of this one, I thought Casey O'Neill would dominate on the floor, but she can't. She's a lot like Mackenzie Dern for me. She can't seem to get the fight to the floor. When she does get it to the floor, she's really good. But when she can't get it to the floor, she's not that good, unfortunately, as we've seen. She was caught by Ariane Lipski multiple times, hurt on the feet a couple of times in the first round. Early on in the second round, she was hurt. I think the finish came 1 minute 18 into the second. Yeah, she was hurt in that second round. Lipski jumped straight on a really good finishing instinct, landed multiple shots. She could have probably been TKO'd in there, but she then, left her arm out there and Lipski took the arm. Lipski will take her ranking. Just looking now, she was ranked number 12. I don't think she drops out the rankings, but I think Lipski definitely jumps into the rankings at you know, and kicks Joanne Calderwood, Joanne Wood out of the rankings, unfortunately for all the Scottish fans out there. But for me, fight of the night, without a doubt, and I think it did get fight of the night, Irene Aldana versus Cara Rosa. What a war between these two women. 15 minutes, 29-28 on all scorecards for the former title challenger, Irene Aldana. What a fight this was. A total combined strikes thrown of 658 between both women. A total landed of 349. One takedown was shot from Cal Rosa. I didn't even remember that. Cal Rosa, let me just look at the leg kicks that she landed. I think she she landed 95 leg kicks to Irene Aldana. I think she broke the bantamweight record for leg kicks landed. 32 in the first round, 29 in the second, 34 in the third round. But it wasn't enough, unfortunately. Damage wins fights. She was doing damage to that front leg of Aldana. However, Irene Aldana really, really, she was on it with a big strike. She was on it with her jab, and she was on it with the body work. The body work is what essentially was shutting Rosa down. If this was 5 rounds, I think Irene Aldana might have shut her down. Cal Rosa's body might have shut down from the body work of Irene Aldana. Phenomenal, phenomenal performance by the Mexican. Phenomenal, phenomenal performance by Cal Rosa, the Brazilian. I don't think any woman's stock, stock doesn't, no, neither woman's stock goes down in this one. It's just ramped up. I want to see Irene Aldana fight again. I want to see Cal Rosa fight again. Really, really good performance by both women. Irene Aldana gets a hand raise, but it could have gone either way. Beautiful leg work, beautiful body work, beautiful striking, big damage on both sides. Really, really good fight. If you haven't seen the fight, if you just tuned in for the main card or whatever, definitely go back and watch Irene Aldana versus Cara Rosa, because it's fight of the night for a reason. Out of 10, I'd give this card a 7 out of 10. It's the last UFC fight card of the year. I'd still give it a 7. We've got plenty of finishes. There was plenty of talking points. The only thing that slightly let it down, I can understand why people were saying the main event was a little lackluster, as was the co-main event. The sort of two marquee fights, as it were a little lackluster. But we got the big finishes. We got the big knockouts. We got the potential of, stars coming through with Paddy Pimblett winning, Shamil Gassiev winning, Cody Garbrandt getting back to his winning best. We got the brutal knockouts with Josh Emmett, and Cody Garbrandt wasn't brutal, it was just clinical. We got the big submission victories from Lipski and from Shavkat. We had Shavkat coming through, obviously himself. I think 7.5 out of 10. I think it's and we got the sort of the good ending, as it were, because Colby didn't deserve to win that fight, not only in the scorecards, but he didn't deserve to win that fight in the due to his post pre-fight antics. Sorry, just going to look because there's 4 fights announced from Dana White, and I'm just going to double check that I don't want to get any of them wrong. I think they're all for UFC 299, which is shaping up to be phenomenal. Yes, all for UFC 299 on March 9th. Ian Gary versus Jeff Neal. Now, penny for the thoughts of Vicente Luque. Obviously, Ian Gary is meant to be competing on this card. That fight has obviously been scrapped. Ian Gary, we hope he's all right, because he was suffering from pneumonia, supposedly. He will now face Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal and Ian Gary have got beef. They were meant to fight, I believe, quite a while ago. Let me just double check when these guys were meant to fight. These guys do not like each other. Ian Gary 13-0 still. So yeah, they were meant to fight UFC 292 when Ian Gary took on Vicente Luque. Sorry, when he took on Neil Magny. He was then, he dominated Neil Magny. He was then set to face Vicente Luque this weekend. Obviously, that didn't go ahead. Jeff Neal coming off the loss to Shavkat Rakhmonov, and he missed weight in that one. I think it was a late notice fight that he took, or something was going on, from what I understand. He had to withdraw from the Ian Gary fight. Those two guys do not like each other. I think it's going to be a really, really fun fight. Petr Yan versus Song Yadong. Song Yadong gets the man he wants, and the man is Petr Yan. There's a little rhyme for you to have and keep that one. Petr Yan, obviously coming off the back, I think 3 straight losses now. Let me just double check that's correct. Yeah, 3 straight losses, 4 in his last 5. He lost to Aljamain Sterling, then he beat Corey Sandhagen, then he lost to Sterling again, then he lost to O'Malley, and then he lost to, well, he was dominated by Merab Dvalishvili. His last performance, you're only as good as your last performance, and he got 50-45 by Merab. Song Yadong, obviously now coming off that big win last weekend over Chris Gutierrez. Massive step up in competition for Song Yadong. But, let's hope that he can answer that step up in competition. We get a really competitive fight. Gilbert Burns versus Jack Della Maddalena in the welterweight division. Really, really good fight. Jack Della has not looked $1,000,000. He burst onto the scene. I think he was coming off the Contender Series, Jack Della Maddalena, and he's looked a little bit flat in his last couple of performances. Yeah, so I think he's coming off the Contender Series. He looked really good in his first 4 fights, 4 first-round submissions. He then had a step up. Sorry, he was then due a step up in competition, but he took on Basil Hezif on late notice. That one went the distance, and he was quite lucky to get a decision there. He then went the distance with Kevin Holland. I think he won pretty much every round against Kevin Holland, but it was a little bit of a flat performance in my opinion. That fight, and Gilbert Burns, of course, is game as anything, always up for a scrap. Gilbert Burns' last fight is the loss to Bilal Muhammad. Now this one will be a very interesting style matchup. Will Gilbert Burns look to take the fight down and test Jack Della's ground game? We know it's good, but how will this one play out? But for me, the biggest fight announcement from Dana White confirmed what we had rumored last week. A few weeks ago. Michael Venom Page officially signs for the UFC and will take on Kevin Holland at welterweight at UFC 299. Michael Venom Page, obviously of Bellator fame, of bare knuckle fame even. One of the best strikers, and I hope, I pray that we're just kind of we're getting there, and we're just going to set up for that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight for Michael Venom Page. We saw when Kevin Holland fought Wonderboy, it was a really, really good, fun fight. And I'm hoping that we're getting on our way to setting up that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight. Michael Venom Page, great on the mic, great fighter, really good first fight for him against Kevin Holland, because Kevin Holland will sell the hell out of the fight regardless of who his opponent is. Kevin Holland could be fighting me, and the fight would sell, which is extremely interesting because I am not signed for the UFC yet. But that was your UFC 296 breakdown, guys. I'm going to return hopefully later on in the week and give you a quick 15-20 minute breakdown on the Day of Reckoning, Anthony Joshua's upcoming fight card, and then I'm going to have a little bit of time off over Christmas. We're going to return with predictions for 2024. 2023 MMA Sucker Award, which is always really a really fun show to do. Usually I'll do it with Tim. I'm working on something at the moment, so that's look forward to that. But as always, guys, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. I'll leave the links down below. Thanks for your time. Peace out.